So my first introduction is to Martin Tucker. Martin Tucker's been in and out of Alice Springs, really practicing surgery on a lot of pianos that were great-grandmas or really just haven't had the love, haven't had the playing. He can do anything, and we keep him very occupied at our house with pianos in various states of decline. So a very big welcome to Martin and to his partner Natalia, who has got the wonderful eye of a filmmaker, and she's had great material with Martin as an observational documentary maker. And when somebody is so immersed, so in love, so dedicated to the care of piano, you don't have to deal with self-consciousness or showiness, you just have to be there. So it's a real privilege to have them here. And initially, I want to introduce Martin. Thank you.
Is it working, yeah? It's all working? You can hear me. Let me just turn this thing on a minute because never done this before. I suddenly realised that I've been doing the same job for 40 years. Like, okay, I've had a few moments when I thought, I don't want to do this anymore, but then I've gone back to it. It's always been there. And I thought, well, it's really nice to come here and tell you a little bit about how that happened, because people often ask me when I'm tuning a piano, so they go, so what got you into piano tuning? And it's sort of like, how can you answer that question in a sentence, like, oh yeah, I've always done piano, and then they go, oh, when did you start learning piano, and how did you do that? And this talk is a little bit like we're celebrating the new piano at the in the concert hall, and then Annie and Bill and Araluen Arts said, look, Martin, we'd really love you to give a talk on the piano and about pianos and how they're made and all that sort of stuff. But also, I was thinking living histories. I came to the last one, and it was about an artist's life and how they became who they are. So I'm going to try and combine a little bit of both in 45 minutes. Anyway, so thanks. So my story is like, and even is now, a story of travel. Like, I actually was born in England. I'm a POM, but I've been here a long time. And I spent the first 6 years in England in Oxford. And my father was at the university there and started a family there. And then he also, a bit like me, he was curious about the world and he wanted to travel, but he saw this ad about a job in Tasmania as a lecturer in microbiology, which was his subject. So, oh, where's the little thing? Oh, this one here. Okay, this is what I've got to do. You might have to help me. There's me, I don't know, is that one? Oh yeah, that's gone there. That's me. That was been me in England. So I had an early interest in mechanics. The one with the I'm sort of with the wheel there. That was actually taken in England. I can't quite remember that, but it just shows me now I had this interest in mechanics, and I drew this picture. I found this picture recently in a little school book, kindergarten school book. We are going to Tasmania. So I've got vague memories of getting on the Fairstar boat. Does anybody else come out from England in the group here? Another boat, yeah. So yeah, we came out to Tasmania, and then we sort of got dumped at a university flat that was sort of like, this is where you're going to go until you buy a house. And about a month later, this big box arrived in the front garden with all our stuff in it. And I remember, we've got photos as well of me and my brothers and my little sister. We were tearing this box apart to find everything inside. Oh, there's our couch, and there's our, oh, that's this and that. We brought everything but the kitchen sink, or even the kitchen sink. But we didn't bring the piano. We had a piano in England. Mum grew up with a piano. Her auntie was quite a famous composer in Birmingham, Dorothy Howell, and she had music in her family, her brothers, and they were all sort of joined choirs and whatever. So we came out here, we didn't have a piano. And that was one thing that Mum said. She said, oh, look, a home is not a home without a piano. And it was a big thing on her bucket list that when we find a house to buy, we're going to have to put a piano in it. This is going to be, that's all right. So I wonder what the next one's going to do. Oh no, not quite there. We're there still. So Dad was very practical, and even though he did his lecturing and scientific stuff, he had an interest in woodwork and practical things, making things. And Mum was very artistic. We did a lot of creative things as kids. And Dad set me up with a vice and some tools. So that was sort of like, it was a good thing, for me. I used to bang around and put nails in bits of wood and made billy carts. And one thing I did then, which I do now, and I love pulling things apart. I love taking the front off things and seeing how they work, taking the back off things. If something breaks down, the first thing I want to do is to get a screwdriver out and pull it apart. So this was like the early stages of me doing things. And we did all things like, we made billy carts and model planes. And then I just sort of thought of this today, actually, that my dad used to make these lovely little jewellery boxes out of wood and marquetry and like really, really fine stuff. And stuff used to always fall down to the ground, and I'd pick them up and try and join them up and make little miniature furniture and miniature things. I even made a miniature piano. So I was a very early age, I was into this. I was quite a dreamy and untidy and disorganised kid. And people that know me probably still know that I'm a little bit dreamy and unorganised. And Mum and Dad thought that Cubs and Scouts would be a good thing for me to learn to tie knots and polish brass and dib, dob. Did anybody else do Scouts? No, you did Scouts. You know what I mean? It was sort of, they told you what to do and all this sort of stuff. And it was okay. Then there was sort of news of a new and fierce Arcala that was going to, the Arcala, there was like the man that looked after us. And there was also rumours of initiation. They'd put your head down a toilet or rub nugget into your bits, It was sort of like, whoa, I'm not doing this. No way. So luckily we after being in Australia for 3 years, we went back to England for Dad had a study leave. So we went back there for 6 months. And on that trip back, I had a fascination in my uncle's harmonium. It was very similar to this one, but it was almost identical. And he had that in his house, and I used to go up to it and pump it and then pull the levers out, and it made all these different sweet sounds. And this is what my parents told me that later, that I had this interest in it. And so when we came back to Australia, luckily I didn't have to go to Scouts anymore, and instead I went to piano lesson. When I went for piano lesson, it was a very strict but very respected teacher called Eileen Johnson. And I had to learn a lot of things. I had to learn, all the different scales, go through all the grades. The Stedfords, do they still have a Stedford here? Or a Stedford, that was like, no question, not do you want to be in the Stedford. You're in the Stedford, under 12 or whatever like that, and playing in front of kids. And the Stedford was held in the Hobart Town Hall, and they had this massive big Steinway 9-foot piano there. And you get up on the stage, and the stage had a bit of a slant on it, so you're already a little bit sort of like that. And you just sit down and play, just about ready to play, or you might get into the first phrase, and then you'd hear ding dong across the road, the GPO clock. Dong. You're trying to get through this piece of music, and it's like dong. It was tricky, terrifying, but I got through it all, and a very character building, having to sort of put yourself out on a limb and just sort of go through it. And his home as well was really interesting because, well, I thought it was like Buckingham Palace. I mean, you leave school, I go there on the way home. She had a walk in the door. There was a beautiful grandfather clock and chaise lounge, and then a Steinway piano and mirrors and a couple of white cats sort of floating around. And I met girls from other schools. I was probably about 12 or 13. I went to the boys' school. So this was sort of like, wow, I really want to do this. She was very, very, very hard teacher, and she wasn't very encouraging. But and she'd say, if you don't practice, Martin, I don't want you here. And I went, no, I want to come here. This is too good. So she was very good at choosing the pieces that were good for me. I wasn't a Haydn. I didn't like this sort of fluffy sort of stuff. I wanted to get right into Bartok, percussive music, Khachaturian, Prokofiev. This was my thing, and she could see that, and I think that was really, really special. She knew what pieces to give me, and got me right through to A-Mus, which is a grade 8 and A-Mus. I didn't realise until later how high I got with it, and then now, I mean, I've forgotten a lot of it. I can play other stuff, but when I look at that A-Mus music, I go, wow, did I play that? How did I get that far? But anyway, it was good. But meanwhile, are we going a bit further here? Meanwhile, I was becoming a teen rebel. And I was going into town, I was collecting records, I was learning about all the pop music. My parents only played classical music, so, it was sort of like, oh, this is like, wow, this is what I want to do. And my brother Matthew, my oldest brother, I called him home at once in his bedroom with a couple of his chums, and he had bought a cheap bass guitar and managed to work out how to amplify it through getting wires and sticking them into the input of the mum's precious cassette player, into the microphone input. And he could get his bass to go dong, 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 dong. It was actually working using the cassette player as an amplifier. And I went, wow, this is pretty cool. And I was the little brother, so I knock on there, can I come in and watch? Anyway, and then they went up to the local hall, and they were practicing, David Bowie, Beatles, Santana, just sort of song. This was probably, this was mid-70s. And they were going up to the local hall, and somehow they managed to get these amplifiers. They were funny old amplifiers, and they had those cables, those cables that looked like phone things. They had them, and if they went too far away from their guitar, the whole amplifiers would fall on their front because they weren't very good. They didn't have big speakers in them. Anyway, I used to follow them up, and they didn't really want me there, but I didn't say no for an answer. So they'd be walking up the road, and I'd follow about 10 metres behind them. And they go, oh, go home, Martin. We don't want. Anyway, I used to go up there, and they had the main hall of the church hall, and then they had the room next to it where they make all the tea and sandwiches and whatever. And in there was a really horrible old decrepit piano. And I would, while they were in the other room on the stage, I'd be sort of, just playing along with them. That was Lady Madonna, I think. Yeah. So I learned, I thought, how come these guys are doing this? And they've had no training at all. They haven't been to music lesson at all. My music teacher's saying, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. If you want to be a musician, you have to learn all your scales and all your keys and play all the right notes with all the right fingers. And you can't do it like that, and you can't do it like that. You can't have consecutive fifths, and you can't have octaves, and then they're just up the road there, just enjoying themselves. The thing is that I was bashing that piano so hard, even I couldn't hear it. They were making a real noise. They had drums, they had a bass and guitar, and a lead guitar. And I remembered when the piano tuner came around, when I was earlier, I watched him and he went, oh yeah, he did that. And then he did something inside there. So there was me. And I thought, oh, well, it's a church hall. They don't know what I'm doing, you know. And I went like that. I was a bit worried whenever I pull pianos apart in front of kids that I think are a little bit like me, because when I go, they're going to do the same thing, you know, or anybody. But there is a little flicker and a little click there. And then I found that I could take the front off like that. And I can't remember going any further. I think I might have even taken that bit off anyway. I'll take it off now. So it all comes apart. And it's interesting because whenever I walk into a house and pull a piano apart, they go, oh, it comes apart so easily. I never knew. Oh. And they don't realise that and I say to people, it's just like a car bonnet. You've just got to know where that little thing is under the dash. You know, once you pick that up, the whole thing comes up. So there I was. And then I could really go. So I could really sort of bang, it was coming alive there, you know. And I used to just go, wow, look at that, it all works really well. And then I'd do my classical. I've forgotten the rest. That's just imprinted into my mind with a few other little pieces that are probably useful now. You know, I go to a house and it's a, you know, classical teacher or something like that. And I go, I'm not going to bang and play Black Magic Woman. They're going to think, oh. So I keep all these little pieces in my brain to sort of give a good impression, I suppose. And also, suit the occasion. And also sometimes just when I'm tuning a piano, just to sort of, I didn't tune this one. Anne wanted me to do it, and I said, no, I'm just going to bang around on it. Don't waste your money on it. But just, you know, my life now when I'm playing, I'm doing a little bit of music, but even just as I tune the piano, I like to play it a little bit and not so technically, you know, test intervals or whatever. I do that, but also I like to just play it to sort of get a musical feeling of it. And it's certainly, I go, oh yeah, I'm happy with that, you know, like that. Anyway, I was really, really, you know, I got into it, and then I realised, oh, what's down the bottom? And then I found there's a little clip down there. You pull that off there, and then I went, is there everybody seen inside the piano? Hasn't seen inside the piano before? No, there's things like that. And then I'd go, oh, look at that, you know, and then I found there's these pedals, you know, and then if you put the pedal down and you sort of, you know, and I went into a bit of a weird stage of listening to sort of Tangerine Dream and King Crimson and sort of this sort of psychedelic rock music, and hearing a lot of this sort of stuff, you know. And you could even do things like this. Don't try this at home, please. But I used to do it. I put a bit of paper between the strings and. Yeah, this was me when I was about 17. I used to just play around. So I was really connected with the piano and the pedal organs. And then I'll go back up here. Everything going all right? You're following it, the story, you know. And then I've got to just turn this on because I might have got a little bit distracted there. So it got bigger, and when my granddad in England, he got to an age he couldn't drive anymore, and Dad said to me, look, Granddad's left you $600 each. So I think my brother, eldest one, he bought a new bass guitar with it. Is this still working? Yep. And the other brother, he was a footy head. He just went and bought a football or something like that. And I can't remember. But I went and bought a Wurlitzer electric piano, which is now they're rare as hen's teeth, and they're like an electroacoustic instrument. So they were an instrument that you would hear on, I don't know if you hear that Doors, you know, that band The Doors. You hear this sort of electric-y, sort of the 1970s sound. Anyway, I managed to get myself on one of them. And I'd pull that apart. So, and inside of there, they, instead of having strings, they've got these little metal tine thing, little sort of bits of metal that the hammer comes up and hits. So I used to always fiddle around with that and try and tune that, except it was 240 volts inside. So I was very, very lucky. I'd try not to get a 240 volt shock from the electronics. And I'm still alive to tell the tale. So a few close encounters where I was sort of, you know, I learnt. So not only that thing I was doing, I was also spending a lot of time in the local library. We had a great library in Hobart, and we had a great record collection in the library, LP records. So I used to go there, and anything to do with pianos, especially if it was sort of keyboards or, you know, modern musicians at the time, if they were like a pianist or, you know, with Chick Corea or Herbie Hancock, the great jazz players. That was my thing. I was driven. My first record being a Herbie Hancock Headhunters album, which is he was a black American. He's actually coming to Adelaide, I think, later this year. You know, and he had this him surrounded by a Steinway piano, a Wurlitzer electric piano, which I had, and a Hammond organ and a clavinet and all this sort of stuff. And this was like, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be him. I wanted to be that guy out of Pink Floyd, or Rick Wakeman with the cloak on. Remember Rick Wakeman? Or Tom Costa from Santana. I was into the sort of Latin-y sort of stuff because I had that interest in the percussion. Anyway, around about that time, my father decided this son of mine is going a little bit wayward. And he thought he'd pull me into line. He gave me this little book, The Art of Tuning the Piano by Herman Smith. He also gave me another book by a guy called Helmholtz, which was on the sensations of tone, which was a very, very in-depth acoustical scientific book about how it all happens, how strings go like that, and how they're all divided up into frequencies. And anyway, you know, I had these books and carried them round. I think he was trying to home me back into something more sensible, but maybe he was just trying to avoid the next piano tuning bill, because even though he was, you know, he had a good job as a lecturer, you know, we all went to a good school. He's trying to. He was a bit tight with his money, and I think that was. He told me he never thought I was going to be a piano tuner. He thought, look, you know, maybe you can learn to do it yourself. Has anybody tried to tune their own piano? You've tried. Has anybody else? Yeah. Bill, I think Bill's had a go. Anyway, yeah. There's, you know, it's you think, I can do that myself. Anyway, I treasure the book, even though I didn't quite understand the complicated physics. But there was this overbearing pressure on me to get a real job and not swan around on the dole having fun, which is what I was doing at the time. Dad put me through to private school, and there I was. I left, and I was happy to go busking with my flute in the mall in Hobart, and and just sort of hang around with what my parents thought were no-hopers. Now this picture here, you can see how steep that street is. This is a corner of one of the streets in Hobart. In fact, Hobart's an interesting place because all the streets. Who's been to Hobart? Anyone? Everyone's been there. And it's sort of hilly, and all those streets in the corner, they've all got these things, and apparently in the day, these are all pubs. So there was a pub on each corner, but slowly there were less. And this is on the corner of Barrack Street and Goulburn Street. And I walked past there one day, and something took my eye, and it was like an inspirational moment. On that side going that way, which is not so steep, there was a row of lawnmowers of all different types, especially those old ones with the roller on the front, the big Briggs and Stratton and the roller on the front. Anyway, they went right up the street past the shop. But on this side here, the really steep bit, there was this poor guy in a white but grubby boiler suit, and he was struggling, trying to drag an old antique piano off an Austin 1800 ute. I don't know if you remember those Austin 1800 cars, but they were they're quite rare, but they were a British car, and they were very rare, the utes. But the good thing about the utes, they were very low, and he said this is the best car for moving pianos. Anyway, he had this Austin 1800, and he was dragging this thing off, and then it was like, whoa, like that. I nearly lost it down the road. But he had all these pedal organs and pianos and that out the front. And anyway, I went home that night and I thought, I'm going to go and ask him for a job. Because the government at the time had a scheme that was like, if you've been on the dole for a while and if you found an employee, you could go to the person and approach them and say, look, the government will give you this money if you employ me and train me, sort of thing. It was like a year-long thing. Anyway, I put on some less shabby clothes and brushed my hair a bit and went in there. I was 19 at the time, and asked him. I said, "Look, this is the deal. You don't actually have to pay me much money, just a little bit, and the government will give." He went, "Yep. When can you start?" Monday. So there I was. I got my first job with Bob McCann, independent mower repairs in the old music shop he traded under. So he had a lawnmower shop and a piano sort of antique furniture shop on the corner. And it really unusual stuff. And I found myself, I got to work, and he goes, "Okay, let's get in the car." And he'd had all these dodgy cars, Comma van and a P76 and all these sort of loser cars that sort of worked but didn't work. And we'd go to the auction and pick up the oldest pianos that I've ever seen. They were just ancient pianos. And I realised what was happening was he was getting all the bottom of the gutter, the pianos that the other piano shops didn't want to know about. He would pick them up for like $100 or $200, a bit like now people get them off Gumtree or free. And he'd get those ones and take them back to his shop, this place here on the right side, which is no longer a shop anymore. And here's some sort of pictures of the sort of instruments he was getting. And these instruments are interesting because, these came out from England to Tasmania, the colony, in the 1830s, 1840s, 1850s. And at the time, that was sort of, early 80s, there was a few of these around. These are sort of what you call wooden frame pianos, which probably now everyone knows, do you want a piano it's wooden frame? Does anybody want a wooden frame piano here? No. Why not? It's just going to be, who wants a wooden frame piano, So this is what was there. And interesting enough, I started on these. So I didn't start on these new pianos, I started on these. And these are really early because they're actually like one step up from a harpsichord. And the way that they were constructed was very interesting because in the early days, the primitive days of piano building, everything was just glued together. No screws, nothing. You couldn't take them apart until you broke the glue joint. So everything was glued together with vellum. I don't know do you know what vellum is? Pig vellum, like a pig skin. So they have a pig skin, and that would be like a hinge, and then the hinge would be glued onto a bit of wood. So, that's like a modern piano is a little pin. You can't really see it, but it's got a pin in the middle of it. But that would be a vellum hinge. So, and you get these pianos there. They were 100 years old then, and everything's sort of frail and falling apart. So that's what I started to learn on, and which was interesting, very interesting way to learn, because later I really needed it anyway. Bob was good at a lot of things, and I gloated over his tool case, which had everything in it, everything in it you could imagine. He was an inspiration with everything technical and practical. Probably not with his poor business skills. I later found out that he was good at pulling things apart and not putting them back together again, including clients' cars, lawnmowers, and alas, pianos. So, when I first worked there, my first pay packet, I was so excited because he had this pedal organ exactly like that one that my uncle had. And so instead of getting paid a week's work, I said, oh, look, can I just have that pedal organ instead? That's how keen I was. I didn't care about the money. I just want the pedal organ. So, but as I got on, I realised that he had these issues. So I was learning heaps about old pianos, about French polishing, and basic tuning, how to put strings on, that sort of stuff, how to start old lawnmowers. Because he'd fix these lawnmowers, but then when their clients had come up to pick the lawnmower, I had to start it in front of them. Otherwise, if they took it and they couldn't start it, and sometimes they didn't start, and I got very good at learning how to squeeze the air intake and do things like that. And there were just little tricks on. So I'm very good at starting lawnmowers. It's another one of my things I can do. Yeah, and chainsaw blades and selling all that sort of stuff. But anyway, the shop eventually ground to a halt. And in the demise, there were things like roping me into hiding from customs a shipment of English furniture to avoid the duties, because he was importing some furniture from England. But if it was under 50 years old or something, or over, I can't remember, then you had to tell the customs and pay the imports. So this container of furniture would come in and he'd say, quick, Martin, we've got to get this and hide it in the basement. So I could see this whole thing becoming, I've got to get out of this. This is not a good business. This is not good. I've learned something, but I need to move on. So after that year, he went broke. He closed the shop, and he owed me $600, which back then was a fair bit of money. But as I wasn't money orientated, and I happily took a Broadwood Grand that he'd taken to pieces instead, but he gave me a glowing reference. This was my Challenger head. I was forever grateful of the head start he had given me. And these are just some things that I found, like inside pianos then. I found that there was this sort of adventure of pianos, and you'd find the tuners' names sort of when it was done. These cards were very interesting because I would find these cards way underneath. When I'd lift the thing up like this, you'd lift keys out, and there's a rail here, and a tuner would have had these cigarette cards and put them under the rail so they wouldn't have to, so they could sort of raise up the touch. Oh, look, there's a coin. See, this is the sort of thing you find in pianos. Coin from Sri Lanka. Well, there you go. I mean, this is what... And I found that it was fascinating, and even now, that's my life. Like, I always say yes. You got a piano? Will you tune it? Yes. Will you travel 2 hours south of Darwin, I've got a piano that hasn't been tuned in 40 years. Yes. Will you come to Alice Springs? We're desperate. Yes. Because of not only the place I'm going to go, but also what's inside the piano, what I'm going to find. I've never found any money. I've found a gun in there once. I've found a lot of other animals and insects and things that have moved in and left their trail. And anyway, this is sort of what I used to find in those old pianos. History. It's the old writing on the edge of a key. A lot of the time I might see, this piano was tuned in 2023. Then I realise, no, it's 1923. So it's another world. I'm not in AI. I'm not in coding and whatever people do. Modern people do. I don't even I'm using an iPad now, but I don't really even use a computer in my life. It's another world. There's me with a sort of a little bit of a dreadlock happening at the back there, with the old Broadwood that I got as my last pay packet, and I managed to put it on its feet and shine it all up, and that was a big job indeed. Anyway, I needed to go on. I couldn't really leave that shop, the old music shop, and say, hey, I'm a piano tuner. Nobody of any standing was going to let me on their Steinway or their new Yamaha shiny piano, so I needed to get some further training. And there was nothing available in Hobart. The 2 piano shops were heavily guarded. I went in there and they went, oh, no, you don't want to do piano tuning. No. We don't need you. And then at the time, this is how I can sort of talk a bit about the Yamaha story. At the time, the Australian piano industry was in serious decline due to the lifting of tariffs. A little bit to do with the war. That's just a general sort of state post-war. A depression really killed the piano industry, and then it limped back after the war. And the Beale Piano Factory, which is quite well known in Australia, they were doing pretty well. But then up until the 1970s, they changed the tariffs so that they could import, they lifted the tariffs so that then Japan could import piano, or Australia could import pianos from Japan. They were cheaper, they were better. They just were better. They just nicer and cheaper. So the factory went under, and so did all the workers and technicians and everybody in the whole industry. They sort of slowly retired, and there was no jobs for them in the country. So Yamaha had this problem. They were selling pianos to Australia, but there was nobody to service them, and hence they sponsored the course set up at the New South Wales Conservatorium, which is this building here. Anybody know this building in Sydney? It's down near the waterfront there. Beautiful place. And there's my lecturer. He very sadly passed away last year, far too young, Aravartukian, who was an Armenian. He wasn't much older than me anyway. He went and did a course, went to Japan, did all this training there, and so he was my lecturer. They only let 6 people into this course in the whole of Australia. So, I thought, God, here I am coming from Tasmania. I walked in the door and they said, okay, do you know what this interval is? And I went, oh yeah, that sounds like an octave. And do you know what this is? Yeah, it sounds like a fifth. Easy, breeze that in. And then they said, what are you going to do if you don't get accepted? It's interesting for any young person who goes to an audition or something or a thing. And I said, what are you going to do? And I went, well, I've got piano tuning tools, which are sort of, some of them are still in there, old ones. And I know what I'm doing. I'll just tune pianos anyway. And they went, whoa, 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 whoa. This guy, he's going to... You have to let him in because otherwise we've got no choice. We've got no choice but to let him in. So I got in that course 6 days a week. It was rigorous. It was hard work. We had a room with a piano identical to this piano. And to learn to be a piano tuner, what I had to do was, hang on, just try and put these keys back in before I sort of get out of order. There we go, that goes in there. There, and that one there. Yeah. You tune one note, okay, then you tune that note, then you tune that note, and you get to there, it's a bit out. And he'd check you on those, and you had to get that right 3 times in a row. So I'd get it right twice, and then the third time, oh no. So you'd be doing that all morning and the next day, and then probably after a week, you'd get that right 3 times in a row. So you'd go, and then you go, you can go on now, great, thank you. You have to get that, and then after about a month, you're tuning. All these intervals. Octave. And you'd have to do that by ear. No machine, no help at all. You had to just train your ear till you got that right. 3 times in a row. When you got that right 3 times in a row, he lets you tune up to 2 octaves. And so on and so on. So it took me about 6 months of tuning every day the same piano in this like jail-like room with just a piano and a table. There was nothing in there. And then finally, you'd get to tune the whole piano up to the top and down to the bottom. And it used to take me about 3.5 hours. My ears were bleeding by the morning, by lunchtime, And then in the afternoons, you had an hour off for lunch. Then in the afternoons, he'd say, okay, I want to get you've got to get the keyboard level. And I'd go, well, it is level. And he'd go, no, it's not. That one's sitting down a bit. And I go, no, it's level. And he'd go, no. And he'd go, oh, yeah. So get something like this, piece of paper, which is, in fact, with this micrometer that I nearly lost at the airport, but I managed to bury it in the car park so they couldn't take it off me. And it was there when I came back 2 weeks later from a trip. So, yeah, you can't take that on the plane, Sonny. It's better drop it in the bin. And I went, no. So you can hide it in the car park. So I took it out. Anyway, this is 0.1 of a millimetre, right? And that's actually a thick one. This is how fastidiously exact Ara was. And now that's about as thin as I go. Come on. But he would go to the tissue paper thickness, right, to get the pianos perfect. And that's because the Yamaha training is like that. They learn everything to that degree. So you've got to learn everything perfectly. Okay, you can break the rules later on. Some old piano, who's going to care? Really, that's pretty fine. So I used to have to go like that and stick that under there and then put the key back down again, like that. And then say, oh, Ara, I've done it, I spent the whole afternoon getting a mirror. It looked like the Stewart Highway, when it's flat. Looked like that. And Ara would come along and he'd go, no. And I go, what do you mean? It's perfect. No. So each part of the piano, whether you're looking at that hammer line there or whether you're looking at the spaces between the hammers, we had a pretty good toolkit. You can have a look at them later, but here's a sort of basically what you're dealing with. They reckon about, I just looked it up, 12,000 parts in a piano. 12,000, if you count all of them. I just tried to count there, and I got up to about 50 of little things, right? So, you know, that goes under there like that, and the hammer's there. So when the key goes on there, that pushes that out of the way, and that thing pushes that out of the way, which is the damper that stops the note, and that goes like that, and then it's got to come back again because there's a spring, and that stops there, and that goes clack, 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 clack. This is my world, and this is what my world has been for the last 40 years. And for some reason, I'm not sick of it. There's something wrong with me. Anyway. The modern piano, which is what I did my training on, apart from those really, really old ones, is not that much different. It hasn't really changed since the 1920s. It hasn't really changed for 100 years. It's only really those ones that were 200 years old where they're different. So it hasn't changed for 100 years. And that's interesting. The modern piano, like the Yamaha, the new Grand there, the CX models, they talk about the fact that the rims, which is the curvy bit, they pre-age them, right? So they put the wood, it's like laminated wood, and they put it in some secret chamber and wave their hands over it or say prayers. I don't know what they do. They do something in there to age the wood, a bit like a violin. You know, they reckon a violin gets better when it's old, and they go, well, we've built this piano, but we've got to somehow sort of age it. I suppose they could send it to Alice Springs. That would pre-age the wood and then put it back in the piano. But anyway, they talk about all this stuff. Each piano manufacturer has its own little secret, and they're very secretive. They won't let anyone go into their factories and see what they do. Whether it's Steinway, Kawai, Yamaha, they've got a recipe. They actually cause, where's that hammer gone? I don't know now, but the hammer felt, the bit with the dongs, the hammer on, they actually call it a recipe. They have a recipe for that felt. And the interesting thing is that in piano history is that when the World War II was happening and they were dropping bombs all over Germany, and when they dropped bombs on the piano felt factory in Wurzen, I think I'm not quite sure exactly where it is. I think it's near Leipzig somewhere. Anyway, they dropped the bombs on this felt factory, and they lost the recipe. They lost how to make the felt. So for a long time post-war, the pianos, whether it was Steinway, Bosendorfer, Bechstein, all those great piano makers, they didn't know how to get the quality and the recipe in how they made the felt, getting the felt, the quality of the felt, and how to press it to get that sound. And apparently somebody from the factory went to America, escaped, went to America, took the recipe with them. And then years later, they said, we got the recipe, we know how to make the felt. And then this felt became, and now is still most revered, best quality felt in the world. So that's an interesting topic. And if you, with a high-end piano technician and people, they go, oh, we're going to put, Vicart felt on your piano. It's going to be the best. So just to go on, I hope I'm not boring you. So I thought after this course, and I was learning about, all these things, including that they put plastic parts in pianos now and all that. But basically it's the same thing. I thought, okay, I'm going to leave this course now. I got my certificate of piano tuning with merit. It's not a PhD degree or anything. It's just a certificate. But I went back to Hobart and I thought, this is great. I can start tuning pianos. I'm going to be working for conservatoriums and concert halls and all these posh people with pianos. This is great. And then I realised that, hang on a minute, the reality. Yeah, this is the reality, you know. You get called up and you got to deal with this sort of thing, you know. You got a school ringing you up. Oh, Mr. Tucker, we've got pianos at our school. Can you come round and tune it? We've got 4 that need tuning. They haven't been tuned for ages. Okay, all right, I go along. The notes aren't working. It needs a bit of fixing. And instead of a nice new one like that, you get to the school, you bend over the piano and you got something like this. Worse than that, you tip it upside down and, you know, some kids chuck their lunch in there. There's a pen, there's a bloody, I don't know, a bit of plastic jewellery, a cork, you know, plus the whole thing's sort of rat-eaten and falling apart. And at 3:30 in the afternoon, the cleaner's coming in the door, starting his vacuum cleaner up. And, you know, you had to fight through hurdles just to get in there. Have you got your working with children card? Have you got your insurance? Have you got this? Have you got that? You got to walk miles to the music block, right? And then you got told, oh no, you've got to get out of here. The alarm's going off at 5 o'clock. I mean, you know, Christ Almighty. I mean, it's like, and yeah, you know, the other older piano tuner. I mean, I've done it for 40 years as an older tuner in Hobart, and he said, look, you know, resurrection is a job for Jesus Christ, not piano tuners. And he's true. I mean, you get to this point that the sad thing is that a lot of the pianos that are around today were made in the 1900s to 1920s, and they're still going, and people still have them, and they go, I don't want it anymore, I'll put it on Gumtree, and then someone else will go, oh, I've got a free piano, can you come and tune it? All right? And it got to a point that, you know, I've gone through different stages of going, oh, we've got to save this piano, we've got to save that one. And a few years ago, I had about 20 in a shipping container in Hobart. We had a piano orphanage, you know, and then trying to fix them up and they go out again. They're just like they go out on a merry-go-round, you know. Someone plays for a little bit and they give up. And then it goes out to the hallway and then it's sort of in the way. They want to do the hallway up and then it goes into a bedroom and they go, oh no, we're actually going to renovate the house and we're going to take the wall out between the lounge room and the kitchen. So there's a wall not gone that you would have had the piano on. And the TV, oh, that's going to go on that wall. So there's no room for the piano on that wall. Then, oh, we've got the heat pump up there. Well, you can't put the piano below that, even though everybody seems to do that. Or the electrician just puts the heat pump above the piano because they don't know that putting a heat pump above the piano is like sending a piano to Alice Springs. You know, it's a life sentence of doom. So, you know, I'm finding that, like, yeah, as architecture changes, there's no room for the pianos anymore. And then they go on the veranda. And they survive out there for a bit if they're undercover. But then someone goes, oh, let's have a street piano. And no, that's the end. That's the end of it, you know. That's the end. So we're at a stage where, yeah, it's a bit sad, but we keep trying to do what we can do. And this piano is actually going to be all right. This is one that our Bill here is fixing up for someone. And the good thing about American piano, the Americans just made everything big, brash and bold. You know, you can't kill them. You can't kill them. They, even though it looks nearly half dead, compared to the other brands, the English brands, bit like English cars. They're easily killed and you don't see them anymore. Like those Austin 1800s and whatever. But the Americans are like, they just keep going. Anyway, I'll go on a little bit more. So overheads, yellow pages. Anyone run their own business here? You started, you understand, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's good, but I was young, business cards, answer machine. I used to have one of those sort of answer machine things that with the cassettes in them that never quite worked. Losing numbers on bits of paper, bouncing checks, leaving tools in pianos and going, car problems, ankle-biting dogs, you name it, going to the wrong address. Once I went to this address and there was no one there and I went, I'll try the door. I went inside, there's no piano here, none there, none there, none in the bedroom. I realised I'm in the wrong bloody house, you know. Got out quick. All these things. Things breaking in front of me, in front of my client. I'm working on something and suddenly the string snaps. Bang, you know. It was not easy being a young piano tuner straight from that course and dealing with, I thought was going to be easy, but instead I was dealing with this stuff. And then I get people who go, you look too young to be a piano tuner and you're not drunk. It's like, anyway, what are we going here? So that was the reality. So my friends were quite a bohemian lot. They worked on apple picking and hops and different sort of casual jobs. They were all saving money and going to India and exotic places. And others went to Melbourne following music, and there was just more life than what was to offer in parochial conservative little Hobart. I just felt like, oh no, come on! I want to do something different. And I actually thought piano tuning was an old man's job. Here I am doing it. Anyway, so I followed suit. I desired to return to England to see all my cousins and extended family, but to take a bit of a dare and go by Africa on the way. Somehow it was a love of percussive music, the fascination of the thumb piano. This thing here was a fascination of mine as well. Partly because these little things were, working, but anyway, this is one thanks to B who brought it here. I have got these. But it reminded me of the little things inside the Wurlitzer electric piano. And I was very... I learned a few tunes on this when I was in Africa. That also the tuning of it. You know, you push them in and out and you push the note out or in to get the tuning right. The whole thing fascinated me. And when I was there, I stayed with this family. And I thought I'd better take something over. I took them this Roland amplifier and they loved it. It was like, wow, this guy coming from Australia with an amplifier to give us. And I stayed there and I met this guy Fabio. That's guy Fabio in the right. And he took me everywhere. He took me to all these ceremonies and he taught me everything he knew on this thumb piano. Not everything, I wasn't that good at it. He was a master. And when I came back to Australia, he said, oh, look, Martin, you know, I'd love to do some recording and touring. And I ended up managing to get the Woodford Folk Festival to pay $1,500 for me to bring him there. And that was an air ticket. There was no money for me, but it got him over. And then after that, we were a bit of a hit because no one had seen this in Australia. B, you'd never seen it, had you? No, B was one of the early people I knew who went, wow, you've got an Mbira, that's amazing. And then we got to the National Folk Festival, the one in Canberra, and it went on, and then we got to Port Fairy, and then Darwin, Bougainvillea Festival. And then it was probably in 2003, I got a call from Alice Springs, from a guy, Clive Scollay. Yeah, Clive, and there was another woman, Di Mills, who was organising stuff in this town, and she said, look, really, I've seen you at the festival, can you bring Fabio, can you come up? And so that was the sort of start of me coming here about 21 years ago. I come to Alice, and of course I had my piano tuning tools, and so we did a show at the Araluen here, and there was a mixture of stuff. There was a plate auction, I think. Do you still do them, or that was just, it was one of these sort of art auction things, and African music, and I did the same in Darwin. And then a few years later I met King, who lives in the town now. The guy, he's got the market stall and does all the stuff in the communities, and also his other disability work. He's part of the town. So we went out to this is out at Hermannsburg, about 20 years ago, and I took a kora, another African instrument, out there, and showed the kids and did workshops and stuff. So I was sort of, instead of my life going down this sort of line of tuning pianos in concert halls, there I was doing this sort of stuff and doing the odd piano on the side, because I had my tools. But what happened was the pianos became more and more needy of me. And people say, oh, can you come and tune a piano? Can you come? Each time I went up to the territory, I'd come to winter time and I go, oh, it's getting cold in Tassie. I think I'll book a ticket to Darwin, or I'll book a ticket to Alice or whatever. And so that sort of started the trip. Older tuners retiring, the lack of apprentices, young people. People sort of forgotten about this part of the world as far as pianos go. You get the odd tuner passing through doing a little bit. And it's sort of a pattern. There's two patterns happening. One is, are less people learning the piano now? I don't know. I mean, when you think of 100 years ago, there was a piano in everybody's house. Everybody learned. Everybody's grandmother tells me their grandmother was either a piano teacher or a concert pianist. Well, that's not the case now. On the other hand, and especially since COVID, I thought, COVID was this sort of event that we were all scared and we were all going to die and whatever. And I thought, oh, well, no one's going to want me in their house tuning their piano, and I don't really want to go to their house anyway, because I could catch something off the grubby keys or whatever. And what was happening was I got busier. Everybody was staying home playing their piano, and they couldn't have music lessons, you see, and they were doing that online. Then their music teachers were going, you need your piano tuned. I can actually hear what you're trying to practice on, you see. And then people were learning online, and they have these programs now where you can learn piano. You don't need a piano teacher anymore. Well, I think you do. You definitely do. But people think they can just learn online, and then finding that their piano was so flat, it was a semitone flat, that it wasn't actually lining up with the program. So they're going, I'm playing C, but the thing's telling me I'm playing B. They were getting very confused. So suddenly I was getting busier and busier. Each year came up, I've been coming up. And I met my darling Polish partner, Natalia, who's going to give the next talk. If I haven't gone over time, I don't know. Anyway, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. We're just about nearly at the end. In 2016, and she'd never met a piano tuner before. I mean, I think she knew they existed, or didn't really even think of it. A lot of people they don't think of it. They say to me, oh, can you make a living out of that? Or are there still pianos? Or can't you just do it? Don't they just do digital pianos? Anyway, she was quite a bit intrigued with my life and wanted to make a film about it all. And I thought, oh, someone's going to make a film about me. Whoa, I'm going to be famous. No, I just thought, it needed to be documented. And my mother said to me, Martin, you need to write a book, because each day you come home with a story, with an adventure. And so this was, even though I think this event now is starting my book, which I'm going to call Am I at the Right Address? But this is the start of the book. So thanks to Araluen and Bill and Annie for inviting me, because actually now I've started it. I've actually got it written, not just in my head. I can just keep expanding on this. So that's but the film's like something else as well. And Natalia's she's been for the past 7 years a fly on the wall. She used to come to every piano I tuned, and then she slowly got more and more used to knowing what's happening, even though you should have come today. This guy was a real crazy person, and this happened or that happened or whatever. But we've got so many stories. We've got 80 hours of footage or more, right? And we need to condense it. And there's the whole making of a film, which is her story. But since we've been together, we've been combining the trips north with some overseas travel, which has been great, to the north of here, to Dili and Indonesia. Hang on, where am I going here? Yeah, that's probably a few Christmases ago. And then, this is sort of a bit of promotion flyer sort of thing about the film that we've put together. That's me being silly in someone's house. Just inspiring kids, though. I love kids, They come up to you, especially the ones that come up and they want to know what you're doing, and they're not scared of you. I don't think she was scared of me, this one. She wants to know what that red felt is that I actually put it between the notes to block off the strings I don't want to hear. And that was me. I just put it on my head saying it's just a headband. And she's looking at me going, "You're weird. You're weirdo." On the road, that was sort of, we decided to drive up. Got sick of flying, and the aeroplanes have just been a mess. I must admit, in the last few years, since COVID, flying is just not fun anymore. I mean, it's still fairly cheap, but they're using all that fuel, and I don't know whether you use more in a car. Anyway, flying is I do it, but we've been driving a lot. Do the trip up, which is always nice, through the middle. Come up through South Australia and see the country, and see all the lovely places here in the Northern Territory. And finding a few pianos on the way that are sitting on people's verandas. We went to, on this trip, we went to Troawi. You know Troawi? South. We went in there, I always wanted to go there. I only found out about that horrible murder. But that wasn't why I went there, but I just went there because I love these old ghost towns. And there was a piano in the Mechanics Institute in the hall there that just sits there on the stage, an old Beale piano. No one really plays it, but I tuned it anyway. They'll be able to use it in their Christmas pageant or something. There we are. Now, this is sort of getting a little bit more into the Darwin thing, why I'm in Darwin, because I'm really needed in Darwin. Because this piano down in Hobart, it can stay locked up with the covers on it for at least 2 or 3 years, even though piano tuners tell clients, get your piano tuned every year. I often see a piano like this, a Yamaha, and it's been locked up for 5, 10, even 10 years, and it's just perfect inside. Just like someone's moved out of a house, they go away for a while, they come back and the cup and sauce is there, everything, nothing moves. In Darwin, these little things, they look big there, but they're little, they're about that big. They love to play dead. You pull them apart and you might see one, and he goes a carpet beetle, and you go like that, and then you look again and he's gone, and you realise they're inside. And this is what they do. They love these felt. These little pads are the things that sit under the key. If you don't have one of them under the key goes down and goes clunk, and it feels like you're a bit like sitting in a chair and there's no padding in there. And the green and the red. They tend to go for the red before the green. I don't know why. Someone said it's the cochineal. But I don't know whether they use cochineal. Anyway, they go, I don't know whether it's the texture or the consistency of it or maybe they eat the red and it doesn't kill them and then they eat the green and then they die. I don't know. I mean, this is sort of a PhD study and maybe a way to make pianos that don't get eaten. And then the mice. This is another problem. Not so much Darwin. This is more up north. See, they've just turned it into powder. And it's all fixable. You just have to pull it apart and put it back together again. Take a deep breath and do it. Now, this is Alice Springs. This is here at our local Steiner School. Jaya here invited me to the Steiner School and said, yep, there's a piano. And this one on the left was what I found in it. Mummified mouse. In the middle there, that's a piano in Hobart, and someone said, oh, the possum got in the piano and it doesn't seem to work very well. Well, the possum had got in the piano and I thought, there's no way a possum's going to get up into the piano. How? It gets through the bottom. Whether it was a pianola with that big bit where the pedals are, they would have got in there, right? Because they saw the possum come out, right? And I thought, well, there's no way it would have gone up in there. But I went anyway, and it was possums and rats. And this rat had got in there and they must have helped themselves to the walnuts on the table and take them inside the piano. They made a right old mess in there. I was there all day on that thing. And the last one is just a big mummified rat in a piano. So, yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted. And I've actually taken on some young apprentices and we do some sort of job like that and they never ring me back. They don't want to do it. No one wants to do it. Anyway, that's that. There we are, looking for some apprentices there. Yeah, this is Nina. She was in the first film that we made. She came down for work experience to Hobart and we did a lot of this sort of stuff, but she never rang back. So I don't know, maybe it was me or the pianos or whatever. But you never know. Someone might come along, and if they're persistent, then they'll have to be somebody like me, sort of like driven. Because it's not easy, I mean, look at this. You get to nobody tells you, oh, there's nobody home. Let yourself in, And you got to deal with something like that on the left. You want to get in. You got to get inside that piano, and you got to take all those things off, those hairy stuffed animals and sort of Buddhas, and there's no room to put anything down. And that's the sort of house you leave your favourite screwdriver. Then you can ring up. I think I left a screwdriver on your table. No, you didn't. There's me underneath there, with my head down doing some sort of crazy yoga position trying to replace something. Probably trying to replace one of those strings, you see. So we can now watch a little film. This is sort of the end of my section. How am I actually doing time-wise? 3:30. Yeah, I think I've done a little bit over. This is, I don't know, I think this is uncut version. Wasn't on we did a film a few years ago. Did anybody see the film? The Compass film? Yeah, so I saw that one. So you know a little bit about what I do and how I operate. And this is a bit of a section in Alice Springs for the local baker, Neil. I don't know if you know this guy. Anyway, he was a local baker who rang me with a piano that he'd got from Gumtree and oh, I've got a piano and is it any good? And I'm trying to be as nice as I can to say, yeah, it's okay, it's good. And we can at least get a start on it. So anyway, I'll click it twice. And this is a bit of an example of Natalia was a fly on the wall. Where's she gone? She's gone somewhere. Anyway. She'll be back. The same one? Oh. This is an old German one. And I fear pianos with names of composers. This one's a Schumann, and whether it's a Schumann piano or Beethoven piano or Mozart piano, they're not very nice to work on. But this one was actually not too bad. I felt there's potential in it. Yeah. And it's something in Alice Springs, so pianos are quite rare here. So the ones that are here, it's good to keep them on the road, but there's horrible in there. It's all dusty and piano's worth fixing, so I'll fix it. Or does it thing. If not worth fixing, I won't fix it. And spinning again. I'll just put a drop on the notes that are sticking. The next person who rings up with a Schumann piano, I'm going to hang up on them.
The little one,
that little one here. Yeah. Can you do the one dun da 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 da?
No.
What do you do?
Then I can't do
Yeah, I'll do this bit. You do that bit. Come on, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Cheers. Very good. Is that it, or it might be it? Just let me check and make sure there's nothing else. Oh no, I think that's the possum, that one of them that somebody gave me that, but I thought, well, that just shows you, what can happen. Yep. Okay. I'm done. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that opportunity. Yeah?
Just ring him up, he'll say yes. So get him round. What more can I say? Can I just ask who came to the concert last night? And did you love it? Well, he tuned that piano and it got such a workover in the best possible way. So thanks, Martin. Yes. Just in reference, though, too, to the preparation that for a festival of the piano, even though sadly we had to let go the Friday night, where we would have had up-and-coming pianists and experienced pianists, we'll find another way to showcase them at some time. But I do want to just thank Jessie, who's sitting over here, who she really just joined up all the dots. She found the people. She just worked tirelessly. We flooded the media. If anyone didn't know about it, I'd be surprised. So she did a great job. Thanks, Jess, and really a pleasure to work with you. So there's more. We started late. I hope that most of you can stay. Let's just have a quick break. Yeah, we just need a quick break and then Natalia will be here. And as you can see, she had the absorbed worker, the inspiration, and must have made, filmmaking at least possible with that, with somebody like Martin to work with. Anyway, 10 minutes and she'll come back to tell us the story. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Natalia Laska, the filmmaker and wonderful individual. Here she is. What do you need? A clicker. You're right there? Yeah.
Yes. So this is for... Hello. Yes. Hello. I'm going to be very quick because I think after Martin's expose, I think there's no doubt about why I made my film about this particular character. Because I think, when I was sitting there and watching him, I know everything about Martin, more or less. I think I know. But I was thinking, if I will meet him today, I will probably, I will ask him if I can start filming. This way. So this is just quickly. So we met 7 years ago, and Martin actually came to contribute to a fundraiser I made for another characters of my film, which were African refugees, and Martin came to contribute and play Cora, African harp. And he mentioned about his profession, and he said that he does it for biscuits. And I thought it's just bullshit, of course, but a very funny one. So I thought it's worth exploring. And why Martin? And I was really very impressed by the simplicity of Martin's equipment, which it's just actually, there's more into it, but also it's just a pair of ears. And from the very beginning, I was looking at it from the metaphorical perspective, and I thought that this is also related to the act of listening. And I thought that's something very much missing in our life. And this was actually Martin's profession, just to go from place to place, home to home, and listen to the instrument, but not only, because I quickly realized that one of the strongest muscles of Martin is the social work with people. Also, I was impressed by the fact that he was not really professional in the sense of distinguishing between what's private and what's professional, which is, again, some people will say it's not really the business model, it's not the way you operate business model, but that's how you operate life, if your life is related to your profession, the profession that you really love doing. So also, again, I discovered that he's also a great social worker. And I thought this is something worth advocating for the audience. But also that he's funny. He is just deadly funny. And that he is a very good musician. So that he can play anything from piano through African instruments or rubbish bins that he's using as percussion instruments. And then later on we find out that actually the fact that he is a musician can help us to create an affordable soundtrack, because I knew from the very beginning it's not the film that it's going to be easy to pitch for the film industry, because there's no drama, no sex, no violence, and everything is kind of you have to. I knew I have to film first and pitch later, not other way around. So the filming took me actually 5 years before I opened my mouth and establish somehow of something like a connection with the film industry, with the aim to look for not even money, but recognition of this project. Yeah, this is one of Martin's clients in her singing box. This is also another important for me part of this experience is that I was kind of fresh in Australia. I'm from Poland. So thanks to Martin peripatetic or nomadic style of performing his work, I had a chance to explore Australia in my favorite voyeuristic way of actually just being entitled to enter private homes with a camera and being welcomed, and also with the tool of music that always opens people's hearts, opens people's memories. So it's just like it was really mesmerizing what I experienced through being able to follow nomadic piano tuner going to all sorts of different communities and houses and enabling my connection with people. And then we became, okay, at some stage, without going in details, we became partners, which is convenient because you're always next to the person you want to film. You actually wake up next to the person you want to film. It's really practical. And especially if you have a small budget. And then, but there are some issues, of course. So it's more complicated in relation to establish boundaries. So Martin was trying to establish boundaries, not very successful because I'm doing observational documentary. So I was filming a lot. But I knew that he was more kind of happy to be filmed when he was more presentable, like this one. He was okay here, but he was not okay here. Actually, after a few years, I thought I accumulated footage which could be divided into category adults audience and not adults audience. Because of the level of exposure to Martin's life, I have a lot of really adult content. Also, I became also abused by Martin himself. So I became a person employed in his sweatshops. So I learned to actually work on pianos, which was absolutely fascinating. I can actually I can do certain things. And also I have to, and that was also the pleasant part of it, I immerse myself into Martin's family. 7 years of being surrounded by tuckers, living in Hobart in Tasmania. I've learned about 10-pound poms. I learned, especially very old-fashioned, because Martin's parents were very, in my opinion, conservative people. I learn about stiff upper lip. That's something very alien to my culture, because Poles are very much openly and proudly opinionated. And that's not a British way of interacting with politics or with each other. I learned also about horrible practical jokes. I learned interesting Protestant work ethic, which is also affecting Martin's. I don't know if you can actually see it in his story about his professional life. That is an incredibly immense ethic of work, hard work. Martin doesn't have anything what we can call par excellence holidays. He's not doing holidays. He can't stop. The picture from when there was this slide with information that we went on the road to Northern Territory. When we stopped in South Australia, there was this piano orphan, abandoned in the front of somebody's house. There was no one there. No one actually asked Martin to work on this piano. Nobody paid him to work on this piano. but he just got himself into full restoration of this instrument. I filmed the whole process, and it was really cold. We were both tired, and all I managed to get from Martin was a statement, "I can't stop," which is, impressive, but also it's on the spectrum, And also, there's also collateral damage of being exposed to British sense of humor. I hope I'm not insulting anyone. Like Dead's Army or Frank Spencer, Martin's favorite. This is what I had to put up with, and I really don't find it funny, like at all. And then again, I'm repeating myself. I just had this incredible opportunity to explore Australia from the guts of it, and also with the company of a European instrument, which is very close to me. That's the kind of compilation of different houses that I had a chance to go through and spend hours, but also establish an ongoing relationship with people for years, visiting many times, going back, seeing, just observing their lives, unfolding, the problems that Martin is also exposed to, not only problems of the piano, but problems of the family, health, everything. And then, yes, this was my one of many observations, that a lot of Martin's piano clients actually can't assess if their pianos are out of tune or not. But they just, like you told me, that most of the time it's because there's some mechanical problem with the piano. They're asking for the tuner to come and intervene. But there is a massive gray space for pianos to cheat because people really don't know. People can't hear. I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of people can't really hear. But they're having, it's a beautiful ritual to have a piano tuner coming and discussing the music and memories and everything, and mental health, actually. That's very important part of my experience. I learned about Australian-made pianos. I don't know if you're aware of, probably you do. Sorry? That was just the way of transporting instruments to the outback. But also interesting, European immigrants, Igor Wertheim, a German Jew, and Irish Quaker Octavius Beale. Both of them, I think actually Beale was a philanthropist and Wertheim was a merchant. And they both realized that there is a massive demand for goods, for like household goods, sewing machines, and pianos. So they were, for years at the beginning of their business careers, they were simply bringing pianos from, importing pianos from Germany and from Martin. Only Germany or other countries? Mainly Germany. Habsburgs, famous, your favorite Habsburgs. Yeah, so they were importing pianos, but then they realized that there is such a demand for pianos that they decided to open their own factories. Beale Piano Factory in Sydney. I'm not sure if it was Beale or I think Beale was the biggest piano factory in the British Empire. Not many people actually remember about. Also, both of them were very workers' union oriented, so they paid a lot of attention to organize the assemble workshops, the way that they were workers friendly. That's why you see those big windows to give workers lights. It was huge, and there's very little recognition of this chapter of industrial history in Australia, but you still find a lot of, Martin knows it very well, how many pianos are actually still operating very well. They're in a good condition with Martin's help, but they are Wertheim and Beale pianos. This is a beautiful shop. It's actually not a factory, it's a shop. So Wertheim's business was killed by depression. And Wertheim pianos are still owned by the family of Wertheim, but they produce in China and South Korea. So you see a little bit of, sometimes it can go wrong. Okay, so I'm sorry I'm jumping from subject to subject, but I want to really emphasize that the documentary film about pianos, the half an hour version that was broadcasted in 2021 on ABC, and then now the feature length that we are about to finish and is going to be released in next year was possible only because of few people that never ever ask about money. This is just really something very unusual. So I think that I met really the essence of really dedicated people working inside the film industry that never applied a business model into this project. It's Roger Scholes. Unfortunately, he died 2 years ago. I don't know if you know the film The Tale of Ruby Rose, the magic realism, the only very exceptional film made in Tasmania. This is Melanie Stafford, a very good editor. They very good professional people that felt that they want to make this film, doesn't matter what. And they were not really paid for doing it. Nobody was paid. And this is the team working on the feature length. So we are now at this stage of post-production. Tom actually we have a little bit of a Polish thing ongoing. His real name is Tomasz Zubrzycki. And even his wife, Julia Overton, cannot pronounce this name. So the two producers and Fiona Strain, the editor, again, people that didn't ask about dramatic art, how you're going to engage with audience. There's no drama, there is no sensational, story in it. They just sense that there is something precious about the domestic piano culture of Australia, and Martin Tucker as an unusual piano doctor and social worker and piano professional. Yeah. Okay, and this is a little bit of intel that Martin is a member of the Facebook group. It's a private group, so you have a chance to actually learn about it. Otherwise, it's just you can't enter this space. So they have a group. This is a global network of piano tuners, and they flood each other with pictures taken from the clients' homes, showing hospitality, but sometimes just commenting on the furniture and good or bad taste. And this is and they all into, of course, sweets and coffee, and that's. Can you, Martin, explain with the anorak?
Oh yeah, if you try and say anything technical on this site, like, oh yeah, is this hammer from Wurzen Piano Factory, or what do you do with this thing? Then if it's anything technical, then you get slammed a picture of an English anorak.
Because they really want to maintain the high level of discussion about biscuits only. Yeah. Yeah. And also commenting on, on how everything is arranged in the house.
It's a bit naughty because we know.
It is naughty, yeah.
But then again, we have a rule that the piano has to be there. You can't just take photos of people's bathrooms or whatever.
But they do. Yeah. Anyway, but also, there are also people also watching piano tuners, so both sides are watching each other. Okay, so this is one of my favorite little clips. It's very short. It's actually it was taken at Dan Murphy's house 3 years ago.
This dilemma because I like it out of I like the sound of it out of tune, and if I tune it, I'll spoil it. It'll be just sort of in tune, but it's so unique. A few notes not sounding right. personal choice, I think.
It's amazing. I think this is the moment where we really reach something, opening a new chapter in his life. That he really likes the pianos being out of tune because they have personalities. So like this dance piano, you probably explain it better, but the dance pianos develop this kind of rusty, sandy, Alice, something carrying the.
It's a little bit like a bottle of wine, you open a nice red,
Yeah.
and when you first drink it, it's like, and then maybe the next day, you go, wow, this is sort of nice, something about it. But then after about 4 days, it's beyond it. It's a bit like a piano. There's a point where piano, in my ears, sounds better when it's developed its own sort of. There's a certain period where it sounds good. But then again, I think pianos have to get them perfect. And after a while, it's like, well, I do that for the job. I like them when they're a bit out. To a point.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. And just a few lines about the new film. In the new film, we are embracing the new characters in the film, Asian clients, which are a little bit taking us for this kind of a time travel, because the way Asian clients, I'm generalizing now, but they're mainly Chinese people, the middle class, the new emerging middle class from China, moving to Northern Territory. And I think this is a little bit like a déjà vu from the history, when they think that the way it used to be in Australia in the 19th century, where piano was part of the social status. And it was also the way to help kids to develop the skill, and I don't know even how to describe it. It was a prestige. It was something what was part of the parents thinking how to equip children the best way possible in their life, and then they dropped it. But Asian people are now embracing exactly the same attitude, so they discipline their children to learn piano in a very professional, very serious way, but also they have means to buy pianos, and they're buying pianos. Doesn't matter. They're not only rich people, rich Chinese. We have Martin's clients. Some of Martin's clients are very modest people, and they're saving. Chinese people saving. We have a cleaning lady from Darwin. She saved for her piano because she believes this is. Yeah, they're not interested. They're not interested in great Australian outdoor at all. So yes, yeah, and that's okay. I forgot. So the very, very, very last thing I would like you to see is the sizzle for. It was made just for the industry. It's very short sizzle for the upcoming feature-length documentary.
That was the one that came the other day. This one's got a brand new set of dampers on. All these pianos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. 3, 4 at my dad's, that's 10. About 20 pianos. I've been tuning pianos for 35 years. There's the piano, there's the people.
That's Ted's ashes, part of it.
You just keep that one.
Well, I was going to put them in the garden.
The golden era of the acoustic piano is coming to an end. They're just dying all over the place. When was the last time somebody came up here to tune it?
About 40 years or 50.
They've all got electric pianos now. There's 3 this year that I'm not doing, and then this will be the next one, I think. But maybe not. If you plan to go into remote areas, you'll need a range of skills to cope with unexpected problems. And I feel strange I haven't tuned a piano for a couple of days. This one I underquoted a bit, but I really wanted to do it, and I was worried that if I asked for too much money, then he might not want it done, so I'll keep working till it looks perfect. My ears, they get very sensitive, and then I don't want to hear anything, you know. You got a new piano. What about the old one? The only saving grace is the Asian people. This is a real professional one. Embracing the piano like never before. 5 new pianos come to Darwin today. All Asian clients. And at the moment this is my home. I'm just adapting to my surroundings.
Oh, that's it. Natalia, thanks. Rounded it off so beautifully. Another insight. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for celebrating the piano. All the people who love it, who play it, who look after it. And they're a rich, important members of our community. So thanks. And we have another Living Histories on November 24th. We'll put the word out about what that looks like, who will be our guests on that date. Thanks for coming, and drive safely. Anyone who wants to push a few chairs or tables out of the way, you're very welcome to stay. Cheers, thanks.